So let's still use this particular website that I have from first example, right? So in this particular website, right, it is a static website and a dynamic website in a way. Now, a static in the sense that what I see here, it is something that it is straightforward, and what I see here is content that has been created using programming languages like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? So it is what the developer put there that I would see, and it's meant for everyone to see as well, right? And they've used these programming languages to style different um, sections of the website to make it more interactive. So in this in this particular website that I'm using, that close. Okay. In this particular website that I'm using, right? So obviously, like the front end developer obviously designed this with everyone in mind. So he designed the first section of the page, like designed the entire landing page, right? And you have a few functionalities here. The action here to get started, so it will take you to another page to create your account. There's a sign in button here as well. There's a create account button as well. There's also like a page to schedule a ride, to get your estimates, an API guide, and so much more, right? But the reason why it's static here is because it contains, information that has been created with these languages that helps me to see that helps anyone to see the content of the website. However, with dynamic websites, it's created with server-side programming languages where um, what I mean by server-side programming language is that these are these are um, these are sections of a website or like the back end of a website where a user is not interacting with, so to say. So, for example, when you look at platforms like Jumia, for example, right? If you go to Jumia's website, you can obviously interact like the front end of the website, interact with things that you want to add to your cart, products that are listed on the website, right? But you cannot interact with like your data, your own data as a user. So you things like your passwords, your email. Obviously, you can update that, but a server-side programming language is used to create, where those things will be stored. Do you understand? So a database is created to store your email. A database is created to store your shopping history, like your carts. A database is created to store your passwords, and basically personal information like that. So a dynamic website is a website that will contain, things that um, has been built with, you know, data database features, database features to store the content. And the reason why it is also dynamic is because you can, what you would see as a user would be what you see as a user is determined is dependent on what you're doing on the platform. So, for example, I think I think I'm not doing a good job explaining this, but I'm just going to use a realistic example so you can see. So, let me share this tab of Jumia. So, this is like Jumia's website, right? So, Jumia is obviously an e-commerce website, and it's a good example to even explain this properly. So, on the Jumia website, you have different categories. There's supermarket, there's beauty, appliances, tablets, computing, etc. And I can scroll, I can interact with the website. Even when I hover on all of this, it shakes, it moves, it shows a shadow. That is done with JavaScript and also CSS, right? So um, Gmail is a good example of a dynamic website because it's it shows you what it shows you what you want to see. At the same time, it also stores things like your personal data. So it creates an avenue to store your private data where you're not exactly interacting with that side of the that section of the website. So in each website, there's a front end and there's a back end. So the front end is what we are interacting with right now. Now the back end is things like a category or a listing of a product listing where all of this information that we're seeing is stored, right? So on on the back end of the website, you have different tables that is used to store like your passwords, your information, different things. So this use case that I'm using to explain this dynamic website now, saying that it is used to store database content to store their content, and the server side code is also used to generate HTML pages that are displayed to visitors, right? And I said that um, dynamic websites can display different content to different visitors. So me who is visiting Jumia right now, right? I might what I'm seeing on Jumia um, on my Jumia account is not what you will be seeing on your Jumia account based on my shopping history and based on my activity on the website as well. Even if I go to places like my cart right now, what I have in my cart, right, is not what another person would have in their cart because obviously they are not shopping for the same thing I'm seeing. So this is an example of a dynamic website where they are not what I'm seeing as a user will be different from what this person is seeing as a user because we all have like unique um, things that we want to do. So they are optimized for different viewing where what I'm seeing on my own tab or what I'm seeing on my own account will be different from what you are seeing on your own account of um, because of what I'm doing on the website, right? What is displayed to you is only based on your activity and based on the information that you provide, right? So you would find this popular amongst e-commerce websites, software as service products, and the likes. So that is essentially like the difference between a static and a dynamic um, website. So um, similar to what I did on the first comparison between website portals and blogs. So I have a table here to do the same comparison as well. So with a static website, content is stored in HTML files and remains the same unless the website developer changes the source code, which is obviously like self-explanatory. But on the dynamic website, the content is stored in a database and can be changed without having to change the source code. So on a static website, right, HTML files are used to like store what the user would see on the website. So HTML and CSS files or JavaScript files, we need to store what the user would see or interact with on the website, right? The content of what a particular headline says or what a particular header says, it will be stored on HTML files, right? But on a dynamic website, the content is stored using like a database, and this database would include things about the user. And the database can also be changed without having to change the source code. So that's like a very, very profound comparison between a static and dynamic website. The second thing we'll talk about here is performance, right? Um, static websites tend to perform, faster and are more reliable than dynamic websites because you don't need to like generate HTML web pages on the fly. And it's obviously a bit straightforward to understand because when you have a static website, there is not a lot of things that you have to load on this particular website. So it just has to display or generate like HTML pages on the fly. So you don't have to display particular information about the user. So it would not be loading certain things. So it tends to perform faster. However, with dynamic websites like examples like Jumia, right, it can be slower and less reliable than static websites because they have to web pages generate HTML web pages on the fly. And this is because when I'm interacting with the Jumia website, for instance, right? So every time I scroll, a particular image has to load. Every time I refresh, a particular image has to load. Every time I go to a subsection of a product, HTML pages have to be produced on the fly, like instantly, for me to see what I'm looking at. And all of these things can, you know, either improve or make the performance of that particular website, you know, good or bad. So it affects the performance of the website, and that can also make it slower or less reliable. So let's look at cost. Now, obviously, because one is more complex than the other, it would also differ in costs, right? So static websites are typically less expensive to develop, and less, they are less expensive to develop and maintain than dynamic website, which is true. And dynamic websites, on the other hand, are typically more expensive to develop and maintain than static websites. Obviously, when something is more complex than the other, it would cost more because it would cost more time, it would cost more resource, more skill, and more experience to build or to develop. So it's obviously going to command more cost in general. Now, when it comes to complexity, a static website, is typically less complex to develop and maintain than dynamic websites. But dynamic websites, on the other hand, they are more complex to develop and maintain than static websites because you're dealing with different sections, um, different levels that you have to deal with. You're dealing with different sections, different information that you have to generate, different information that you have to store. So it is obviously a lot more complex. If you look at the Jumia example that I gave now, right, there is a lot that goes into storing all of this data, storing all of this picture, the price that has been displayed here, the price that is slashed, you know, there's just a lot that goes into like the design of a website, like an e-commerce website, so or a dynamic website. So it will definitely cost more, and we just have to be, you know, um, we have to know what we want to use for our own particular use case before we head out to develop a website. Now, these are examples of a static website, personal websites like websites like let me see if I can use one. So let's use tonyelumelu.com. Tonyelumelu.com is an example of a personal website because it contains information about who he is, what he does, and how you can reach him, things like that, right? So it's a static website, for example. It's a good use case to explain what a static website is. Other examples of what a static website is like small business websites, landing pages, portfolio websites, static brochure websites, and the likes. So examples of dynamic websites include e-commerce websites, social media websites, content management system websites, online forums, web-based applications, and the likes. So obviously, with these examples, you can put a finger on what is static and the put an example, put a finger on what is static or what a dynamic website is. So um, it's not a concept that is going to be new to you, right? So I believe that we all understand this from this point. Okay, let me move to. So if you look at this website now, this is Tony Elumelu's website. It's a personal website, right? So it contains things like his profile, recent events that he has attended, links to his travel experiences. Basically, a link to a um, very straightforward means to access all the things that he wants you to know about him. So about Tony, his thought leadership, philanthropy, investment library, etc. So it's an example of a static website. So this is because I gave an example of what a dynamic website is. And this is also like in comparison to what a static website is. So let's move on to the next slide. Now you have to know which type of website is right for you before designing a website or even trying to get your business online, right? So obviously the purpose of this class is to learn about digital marketing and use it to the best of your advantage, right? So you have to decide what type of website is best for you. So the type of website that is right for you will depend on your specific needs and requirements. And this is obviously a no-brainer because what you need is obviously going to be unique to you. So if you need a simple website with content that does not change frequently, then static websites may be a good option for you. And if you need a website that has dynamic content, such as an e-commerce website, then the dynamic website may be better for you. Now, if you're not sure which type of website is right for you, then you obviously have to like consult the developer or web developer so that they can assess your needs and then obviously procure a solution, recommend a solution for you with the requirements that you've provided with them, provided them, so they can obviously recommend what type of website is best for you, whether static or dynamic. Wow, we've eaten into the entire module for today. So I believe that we've been able to really, really touch or basically talk about what a website is and the differences between a website, blog, and a portal, and obviously like things that you need to understand before you go out to build your own website or go out to build your own website. So in our next class, we're supposed to talk about like introduction to search engine optimization. We're talk about SEO in detail, but we still have a lot of time on our hand. I think it's best we just end the class here instead of proceeding to the next module for next week. Um, I think now would be a good time to um, take any questions that you might have. If not, then we might just end the class here and continue with the next module for next week, which is SEO.